Namaste, Jai Bharat. Some time back, I made a distinction between cultural nationalism and political nationalism. Cultural nationalism, when it when you understand in Sanskrit, it is Sanskaric Rashtriyata or something like that. Culture is a rough translation of Sanskriti into English. But then Sanskriti, which we use as culture in English, in the context of Bharat, is much wider and richer than culture. Culture, of course, if you understand, let me define culture something like refined human existence. Refined in the sense that with all kinds of possible refinement, now which Feuerbach, Ludwig, the materialist, said self-esteem of man, perfect man. No, he speaks about God in like that, and he says God is self-esteem of man. That's minus all imperfections of human. A man creates a God concept. That's what Feuerbach says. That's his way of understanding. Agreeing, disagreeing doesn't really make a sense in understanding things. So, refined human existence with minused impurities. Impurities minused. Now, Sanskrit is much more than that. Sanskrit indeed is a refined human existence, but it's based on a knowledge tradition. For Bharat, it's based on a knowledge tradition which is the Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition. And from the based on the Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition, there evolves a refined human existence, which is Sanskriti, and that, of course, is culture. Not just that, which has a built-in longing towards the transcendental. So, it's from mundane to transcendental. Also, is built in. That's what Sanskriti is. Any one of this missing, if any one of the three ingredients in the Sanskrit is missing, then Sanskrit is inadequate in the complete sense of the term. So, cultural nation and political nation. So the political kind of nation is just less than 200 years old concept. But cultural nation is a concept which is tens and tens plus tens and tens of thousands of years old. Bharat is a cultural nation. Bharat is a cultural nation. I need not to say more. When Alexander came to Bharat, he came to Bharat, not to Punjab and Sindh. All those who came, Vasco da Gama, he came looking for Bharat. Even Columbus went in the wrong direction looking for Bharat. So, they had the concept of Bharat. I'm talking about Europeans, had the concept of Bharat. But that's a cultural nation. We had many princely kingdoms. They're princely kingdoms. We had many kingdoms. And these kingdoms were also having differences, and they also fought wars. But as a whole, it is Bharatavarsha. Beyond that, one more point. When a Hindu who does Agnihotra, when he says his address, he says, of Jambudvipa, then he brings of Bharatavarsha, and this part of Bharatavarsha, son of so and so is doing this. That you say your address. That's the archetype. Agnihotra done by a Hotara. So there's a cultural nation concept and political nation concept. I said this to speak about Nepal. Nepal is a sovereign state, completely politically independent, but it's a part of Bharatiya Sanskriti. When we speak about Sanskriti, Nepal, Bharat, we have the same Sanskriti. So that way, Nepal is with Bharat. And it's only recently that Nepal became a kingdom of their own. Of course, they were a kingdom always, otherwise. But you talk about political nation, that's a recent phenomenon, because the concept of political nation itself is the recent phenomenon, less than 200 years old. Nepal was a kingdom long back, but then it was culturally integrated to Bharat. There's Angadesha, Bangadesha, Kalingadesha, Dakshinabada, Vijayanagara. So many kingdoms. They were sovereign states. They were independent states, but culturally united. There's a very interesting thing. I think the most powerful, one of the most powerful university in the world of then, first one actually, is the Takshashila University. And there was a time when most of the ministers and most of the kingdoms were graduates, Snatak we say in Sanskrit, graduates from Takshashila University. So maybe it's a case that the kings may not know one another directly, but the ministers of King X and a minister of King Y may be classmates of Takshashila. So they had greater diplomatic relations. They were known either classmates or studied little ahead or little behind. And they were all, most of them, they were all students of the same university. There used to be a situation like that. So where the distance between Travancore and Nepal is negligibly neglected because that didn't exist. Physical distance existed, but mental distance did not exist. Cultural distance never existed. They belong to one Sanskriti, one culture. So, whatever happens in Nepal, Bharat is concerned. And there were efforts, trial and error methods from quarters of many to destabilize Nepal by destroying the kingdom. Somebody succeeded, the communists to say so. Most likely China had their hand behind it. The kingdom was destroyed. Then the so-called communists were living. No. But if you really think, an archetype Hindu just can't be a communist because he can't be inhuman. He can't be inhuman. An archetype Hindu I'm talking about. So communism doesn't affect us, cannot make any sense to us. And Nepal are archetype Hindus. It can't last for a long time. It can't last for a long time. Now, in all likelihood, Nepal will go back to their Sanskriti. They will remain sovereign because Nepal kingdom was independent always, even in the past. There was a kingdom and that kingdom should remain as sovereign, need not to be part of any other nation because they had existed as sovereign kingdom and they shared the culture. So we don't need that kind of nation concept to coexist. The Vedas teach us to coexist. Last Sukta of Rigveda teaches this, and this is applicable to any Hindu. So there's a possibility in time, gradually taking time, Nepal will become the one and only Hindu Rashtra again in the entire world. The one and only Hindu Rashtra again in the entire world. There's a possibility. I'm just talking about the possibility. Somebody wanted them to become communists, and the evangelists think they are doing a great thing by spreading the good news, and they go around with gospel, spend money, energy, lifetime, everything for this nonsense. They think it's a great thing to get people converted. No. If someone evolves into something naturally, that's all right. If someone feels Christianity is acceptable, him letting go. We won't stop. But why are you deceiving somebody to accepting something which they are not familiar with through all kinds of devices? Deception through devices. Food is one such device to deceive people. The evangelists do that. And they tell rhetorics and they tell flowery stories. So there's a possibility. And if Nepal becomes a Hindu Rashtra, don't get surprised. And the Hindu Rashtra for today or the future or at the current time has to be a strong Hindu Rashtra. It can't continue with the broad-mindedness of a natural Hindu, because then your broad-mindedness and good intentions will be taken for a ride by these devastating agencies. So Hindu Rashtra has to be rigid and careful that external insurgency does not freak into their nation. Mark, Nepal is likely to become a Hindu Rashtra. This is my speculation. Actually, I wish that Nepal should be Hindu Rashtra. That's my personal interest. That's all right. But I'm just telling it's a possibility. Let there be a kingdom again, as it used to be. Maybe it's the first time in the entire history of the world kingdom comes back from democracy. Benevolent dictatorship is much better than democracy always, but there's no guarantee for benevolent dictatorship. That's why democracy survives with all its drawbacks. I'm a Democrat. Most of us are Democrats. We have no options other than to be democracy, other than to be democrat in the world, with all its drawbacks and minus points of democracy. In democracy, money speaks. People with money power becomes the rulers, and corruption creeps into democracy. These are drawbacks of democracy. But then we should have methods of checking it. Of course, we do have, but they should be structured efficiently, and that's. We shall meet again, hoping Nepal to become a Hindu Rashtra. Namaste, Jai Bharat, and Jai Shri Ram, Nepal.